Emilda, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Hi, ma'am. Shall we start our session, ma'am?
Yes, I think, but your bandwidth
Emilda,
is
ma'am,
low.
shall we?
Can you people hear me? Your bandwidth is low. There is a loss of connectivity. We are losing connection every time, every few seconds. Can you check that?
Emilda, ma'am.
Yes, I am there in the call. I am there in the call, but I don't see.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, there is a slight stuck in your call, ma'am. Can you adjust your mic, ma'am?
A minute. Yes, I've given the full volume. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am, we'll start our session, ma'am. Good afternoon and welcome. Good afternoon and welcome to the day 4 of the International Workshop on Research Methodology. We have had an incredible journey of learning and discovery so far, and today promises to be no exception. The theme of today's session, which is going to be provoking, is multi-model linguistic assessment and evaluation. This topic is at the forefront of the modern research, exploring the dynamic interplay between language, technology, and various modes of communication. Before we dive into today's proceeding, let me extend a warm welcome to all of you. Your presence here is a testament of your commitment to advancing the field of research, and we are grateful to have you with us. Today, we have the distinct honor of having with us a remarkable individual, a trailblazer in the field of research, and an expert in the realm of linguistics and research methodology. Our chief guest for the day is none other than Dr. Emilda Josephine, head of the department at the International Agricultural University in Uzbekistan. Welcome you, ma'am. I also welcome each one of the participants at the August gathering. Let me invite Ms. D. Pooja, Assistant Professor of English, Department of EFL, to introduce the guest of the day to the gathering. Over to you, ma'am. It is a huge pleasure and privilege to introduce our guest, Dr. Emilda Josephine. It's a huge pleasure. It is a huge pleasure and privilege to introduce our guest, Dr. Emilda Josephine, to the audience. Dr. Emilda Josephine is a distinguished scholar with an eminent career in academics. She currently serves as the head of the English Department, International Agricultural University, Uzbekistan. She has also done several positions in academic arena as the head of this department, principal of higher secondary
resource person for 26 seminars, 5 conferences, 12 workshops, and 8 research, editorial, conference committees. She has also served as a in American Journal of Educational Research, USA, with a doctorate in English literature and numerous publications to her name. She has not only expanded the boundaries of knowledge, but also inspired countless students and scholars in their academic journey. English language teaching is her area of research, journal studies, and more. She has been guiding 36 scholars from various universities and conducted 5 command researches in English language teaching. She has published 32 articles in ResearchGate and more than 25 articles in blogs and websites, and 13 issues in college magazine. She was invited to participate guest of honor, 57 convocations, vacations, school day, sports day functions, and key resource person, a state level for government teachers and heads of institutions. In recognition of all these academic accomplishments, she was conferred with a Professor in Excellence, Teacher Educator Award. Beyond her accomplishment in literature, Dr. Emily Josephine is widely praised for her expertise in research methodology. She has mentored and guided numerous research scholars, fostering a culture of academic excellence. Her insights into research methodology have been invaluable to many aspiring researchers. We are truly honored to have Dr. Emily Josephine amidst us today as our chief guest. Looking forward to valuable insights and wisdom on the title Multimodal Linguistic Research, Assessment and Evaluation. Once again, I welcome Dr. Emily Josephine. The forum is yours.
Thank you so much for your kind words, ma'am. I will start my introduction. Can you please check whether the voice is clear and audible? If there is no clarity in the voice, I will switch over to another mode.
Ma'am, actually, your voice is slightly feeble, ma'am. If you could.
Yes, just give me 2 minutes, ma'am.
Increase your volume, I think we are fine for this, ma'am. Imelda, ma'am. Imelda, ma'am, can you hear us, ma'am?
Actually, ma'am, since you cannot hear me, I was trying to log in through another module.
Okay, ma'am.
I think I'm
Now,
trying to
now
connect to
you
a mobile.
what
Yeah.
clear, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Now it's very clear, ma'am. We can hear you.
What about now, ma'am? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My heartiest congratulations to all the Department of Foreign Languages, to all the SRM University of Faculty of Science and Humanities for this intensive workshop. And you have started to propel research scholars towards innovative research. I applaud you for it. It feels great to actually come back to your alma mater. I think SRM and Loyola are my alma mater. With SRM, my association runs for more than a decade. I have been working at SRM University in the year 2011 to 30. And I really appreciate and thank my heartfelt gratitude to the management of SRM School of Teacher Education and Research for their immense support and leverage during my time of service there. And a few days ago, my mentor and HOD from Loyola College delivered his session on research methodology. What more to ask for than to share the platform with your mentor and HOD in the same research platform? It's indeed an honor for me. All thanks and credits to the organizing committee of SRM for making this unbelievable thing possible. I'm humbled by your elaborate introduction, ma'am. Thank you again. I think this is a workshop, and this workshop has to be engaging and interactive. So we will have this chat box open. You can always pop up few questions that you have related to research in English language and literature. And my topic is going to broaden into all linguistic research, like all language research. So those of you who have any doubts related to English language or any other languages, you can always post the questions for this week. So now I will be sharing my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have chosen this topic, multimodal linguistic research, assessment and evaluation, just for the sake to clarify all our doubts related to linguistic research. When I start with linguistic research, I want to clarify that linguistic research does not pertain to only language research. It follows into computer science because we are going to use a lot of computer assisted technology for data, for teaching, for assessments, and it also talks about cognitive science. When I say cognitive science, it simply means that we are going to talk about what we know and what we don't know. When I say what we know, we start at a platform where we know something of the language, and then we try to explore into an unknown area where we do not know how to deal with such methodology, approach, or anything. So we are going to talk about linguistic research, which is language research, and multimodality, with the different ways of people learning the language and how to assess it. So the challenges for every English language researcher or a teacher educator would be, these are the broader areas. We talk about pedagogy. We want to know whether grammar translation method is suitable or direct method is suitable or a bilingual method is suitable in our classes. We are also wondering about the approaches. What kind of an approach can I give to my students? Can I use a computer assisted learning, instruction, or a communicative method? Should my teaching or approach should be only oral? Should I give it a lot of situations where the students learn how to use the language in the situations? Or we focus on the four skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, which is the preliminary skill that every language teaching has to be catered to. We also give a lot of focus to vocabulary and grammar. And then comes the greatest pandemic of every area, like we focus on morphology, syntax, phonology, semantics, and all these topics are actually intriguing. We want to do some kind of research into language teaching, and then prop up the topic of social linguistics. How do we change, alter the language according to each platform or the society or the situation? Pragmatics, is it the practical usage of the language or the culture? And then comes our most important criteria, which makes this or pushes us towards this research, which is learner. We are always concerned about the learner. Each researcher here, each research scholar, each teacher, everybody is concerned that their teaching must be effective. It should reach the audience. It should reach the students. There should be an effective communication between this teaching learning process. And technology, we can never say no to technology. I would proudly say, like 5 years ago, all the teachers banned mobile phones in the classroom. We said, no, you will not bring your mobile phones to the classroom. And then we had the era of the pandemic. We had COVID, and then with the onset of COVID, everybody said, like switch back to mobile phones. And then we had our classes through Zoom platforms. I always appreciate technology, whether it's artificial intelligence or mobile-based classroom. we can always adapt those technologies into our classrooms. And the most important factor for any teaching methodology or any teaching in the classroom, which is assessment. All of us are concerned about assessments, but we do not know how to cater to that assessment. So these are the broader areas in language research for people who are going to do their research in English language teaching. You can focus on any of these areas. So my first question to you, keep your chat boxes open. You can answer. What was the first word spoken? I'm not talking about the language. I'm not talking about the culture. I'm just asking you, what would have been the first word that have been spoken? Very good, Lakshmi. Lakshmi has answered saying it's mother. Would it have been mother? Did we start with words? Yes, wonderful. Umapati says ma. And I think we can also take this utterances like this utterance of ma, amma, sounds to communicate, yes. And I think the first utterance was believed to be ah. I did not waste my time. I'm sorry. I should have taken more answers from you, but I'm really happy with the participants. Good going. Let's see in the next question. So the first word spoken was ah, but still there is a debate about whose language is it? Is it like Sanskrit or Tamil or African? We'll wait for all the linguists out here to do the research and give us the answer. So to my research into applied language, when you talk about applied linguistic research, I want you to focus on speech, text, gestures, images, all things that make you speak. We cannot communicate. Man cannot be without communication. If a person says that I will not talk, he always uses gestures. When a person says I will not share the information, they can even write it down. So even drawing a pattern onto the wall, cave, it all had semantic associations where we tried to give information to someone. We wanted to share our knowledge, our information to someone. Let linguistic research not be perceived as a research into language, but rather let us see how we can have this holistic approach of understanding. Like when someone says something, how will we understand the language, communicate, speak, recognize the sounds that are associated with it? Even the simple phrase, for example, if I were to say, what is your name? This can be used in different intonations to give different meanings. What is your name? What is your name? What is your name? What is your name? So different intonations give different meanings to the listener. So as teachers, as professors, we have to be cautious about how we use the language. Do we deliver the content effectively to our students? So when I talk about effective communication, which every teacher perceives, be it a mathematics teacher or a science teacher, every teacher comes to the classroom, wants to convey, share the information to the students, and wants to go back home that the students have learned it, understood it. So we have to be confident about the usage of vocabulary, the diction, and the language itself has its own use. How are we going to use the language for that particular criteria? So along with it, I have given a few authors. These are the frequent or the recent linguistic researchers. You can always check their writings, their research findings if you want to do some linguistic research onto ELT. If you want to pursue your English language teaching research or English language research, these are the few authors whom you have to read before you start your research. Now, starting about multimodal learning technology or the strategy, all of us know we have a classroom of a heterogeneous group. We do not have the students of the same height, same size, same intellectual ability. So we have a classroom which has a mixed group of abilities. A student can speak well, a student can read well, a student can write well, a student could be good at dance. So these are the major learning strategies students also use in their classroom. In your own classroom, if you imagine your classroom, you will have the first two rows of students who are visual learners. They want to observe the professor or the teacher, every minute details. They will imitate you. These are the students who will imitate you, who will do whatever you do in the classroom, how you teach. They will keep repeating you, imitating you even during teachers' day. So the students who are visual learners pay a lot of importance to their sense of sight. They observe, they perceive, and they register the information into their brains, and their learning happens through visual sense. The second sense of learner would be the auditory learner, probably in your third and fourth row, where you have students listening to you. They record whatever you say. Every word of yours is being recorded into their minds, and you can ask them even after 5 years, they will be able to tell you. So you have a visual learner, you have an auditory learner, and the third one is going to be your reading and writing strategy that we use. Like when we were young, when we were learning, our teachers used to give us like impositions, or we are asked to write the same sentence 5 times, 10 times, or even the table, the mathematics table, where you read and write. Reading aloud and writing helps every individual to learn more. So this is one strategy that is being used by the English teachers or the mathematics teachers in their classrooms. But when we see the impact of learners, the individual learning strategy would be visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. What do you mean by kinesthetic? Kinesthetic means mobility, action, a person who can perform some action and then learn the language. So we have three different kinds of learners in the classroom. As a teacher or a professor, we have to cater to all the students. How do I cater to all the students in the classroom? Be it a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. That is why we put up flashcards, pictures, images, PowerPoint presentations in the class. So this caters to the visual learner. What about the auditory learner? How do we help the auditory learner learn it? We make them repeat the points in the slide so that they repeat after the teacher, or as a group, a choral activity where they listen to it and then they learn it. The kinesthetic, you have some kind of an action. The teacher always is a performer. You stand there as a magician, you stand there as a dancer, you do some actions, they correlate your action and to their learning. If they are also involved into that process, the best for you. You make your teaching the best and they learn from it more. Now to the second question. Chat box is open. How do we cater to the individual learning strategies of students? So we know every student is an individual learner. One person will be a visual learner. One person would be an auditory learner. One person would be a kinesthetic learner. How are we going to plan for all the students in the classroom? I'm waiting for your answers. Grouping the learners. Are you saying that we put all the visual learners together, auditory learners together, and the kinesthetic learners together? Yes, we can try that. Why not mix them all together? Use PPT, give task. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. So in all our lesson plans that we plan for the classes, we have to make sure we cater to all the 3 different types of learners. We have a PPT, as one professor mentioned, we have a PPT, we have a slide, and then we have some tasks. We also involve the students into the learning process so that all students have achieved their learning outcomes. We go to the class, we have an educational objective where we want to have task-based learning. Thank you so much, ma'am. So we are focusing on tasks. We also talk about this as task-based, activity-based, or project-based learning. When the students do it by themselves, they learn it much more than us teaching them. So they have to be involved into the process. Now coming to my next topic, which is assessment. Here, there is this conflict about assessment and evaluation. We are all confused about what is an assessment, what is the formative assessment, what is the summative assessment, what is the evaluation process. Let's start. Imagine that we are teaching a classroom. When we go to a class, now that we know that there is a group of mixed learners, we also know that the students have different abilities. Some of them might be good at grammar, some of them might be good at vocabulary, some of them might be able to write good essays. How do we find out their strengths and weaknesses? We are their teacher. We are supposed to help them progress from one level to the other level. So we conduct a test which is called as a diagnostic test. A diagnostic test helps the teachers identify where the students need help. And then we plan our syllabus and curriculum based on the needs of the class. All of us have our own syllabus, all of us have our own curriculum that we have to teach. But we also have this diagnostic test to identify where we need to help the students in their teaching learning process. So when I say assessment, we always think that comes at the end of the teaching methodology or the teaching process. No, we start the assessment in the beginning of our session. We have the assessment in the first day of our class, which is called as a diagnostic test. Okay. After that, I start teaching them grammar. After a few days, I want to know whether the students have understood the grammar that I've taught. So I have a short flip test or a pop quiz in the classroom so that I know whether the students have understood or not. If the students have not understood, I change my teaching pedagogy in order to cater to the needs of the students. So which means the students did not understand my teaching of tenses. I take a different approach, I take a different technique, different strategy to teach the tenses again. So this helps us identify the problems students have, as well as the students and the teacher. It is kind of a feedback to the teacher, telling the teacher that I did not understand this area. Probably in past simple, I did not understand, or present perfect, I did not understand. So this helps the teacher modify the strategy and the technique that is being taught in class. So we can have n number of formative assessments. Formative assessment, you have your pop quizzes, and then you can have tests, small tests, flip tests in the classroom. You can have a questionnaire, you can have think pair, like you have 2 students like discuss and think pair and then share, or you put up some questions on the board, ask the students to answer. They do not know the answer. We can always ask them to, like, we can always change our methodology. You have the interactive writing. You give them a small writing task in class to check their writing. All these assessments are not graded. We do not grade all these assessments. Rather, we try to help them go for a better learning environment. So these will be opportunities for the students also to get their evaluation from their friends. If there is a small quiz in the class, they share their answers. They can always learn from their friends. Peer learning, peer evaluation, and also feedback to the teacher, where the teacher knows where the students have their learning process going on. It is a learning process. So in between, if the teacher needs to change, adapt a different technique into the classroom, yes, it can be done. Anything, any change could be done in the classroom. Even a small activity as to put up a slide and ask the students to read from the slide, as a choral activity, as an individual activity to check their reading ability, accuracy, speed can also be taken. And this helps us into check or see the systematic process of learning, and it also helps us to gather information, like take information or evidence throughout our teaching period, and to check whether the student has progressed from one level to the other level. When it comes to English language teaching, we start with the beginners, A1, A2, and then slowly they progress to the intermediate level and then to the advanced level. So if the students are at the beginners, they are at the beginners level, you give them more activities, more vocabulary practice, more listening, speaking, reading, writing practice, and slowly they progress towards advanced level where they are proficient users of the language. Evaluation, assessment, where you have small, simple tests in the classroom would be your formative assessment, your summative assessment, or your evaluation, which happens at the end of your teaching process. It is usually called as examination in India. We have our midterm exams or the quarterly exams, half-yearly exams, and annual exams. And at the university, we have the semester exams, and then the students are able to study for a period of 3 months or 4 months, and then we test their ability at the end of the semester or a 3-month period, a quarter period. So usually when we start teaching, we have our educational objective. We have in our mind that we are going to teach certain criteria or certain aspects to the students. And through formative assessments, we check regularly whether the student has understood tenses, sentence patterns, kinds of sentences. Slowly we progress. Towards the end of the semester or the quarter, when the student has to be checked whether the student has understood, has passed this level, and then can progress to the next level, we have a summative evaluation, which is our exam pattern. Nowadays, we do not follow exam pattern. We also modify our exam pattern to be some kind of assignments, research essays, or if you take the proficiency exams, it's always objective-based test where there are 40 questions where the student has to listen and answer or read the passage and answer, or it can be projects, it can be seminars or debates where they are given a lot of chance to perform or broadcast their skills or knowledge which they gathered during their period of study. So most cases, we are checking the students' performances at the end of the semester or the quarter. And it also helps us in having our external evaluation for the teachers to check the efficiency or the effective teaching methodology of the teacher. So at the end of our summative evaluation, mostly students are given a grade or a ranking. In our pattern, we follow ranking system. When it comes to the university, we have the grading system, and it is also based on the criteria, which is credit based. And nowadays, in most of the countries, we move towards an evaluation pattern where the students are asked to read for a period of time, research, collect data, interpret, evaluate, and write their own essays. So we are not moving towards an examination pattern. It's more of an assignment or research essay pattern where they give proper referencing, and then with credible APA referencing, they are asked to paraphrase and summarize their essays where they do not have to memorize. In our country, earlier on, we were asked to memorize content, Now, this more of critical thinking process. We progress, we ask the students to read, reflect, and give their answers as a reflection or an essay. So, if you happen to see, this evaluation is a culmination of the educational process, whether it's teaching or learning. Next question to you. Is language learning tested with assessments or evaluation?
Thank you, Professor Danish. I think so. He is one of the professors which we take on the college, I believe. We'll get back to you, sir. Language learning is tested with both assessments and evaluation. We carry a lot of activities to the classroom. We conduct a lot of activities in the classroom. It can be an n number of activities in the classroom. As we mentioned, we're going to go towards task-based or activity-based assessment, which will help us understand the student's ability, and we always progress towards their educational outcome or their learning outcome towards the end of the semester, which is evaluation. Thank you. Now, moving on to the next topic, as we talked about assessment and evaluation, we are going to move towards qualitative research. As language teachers, all of us are supposed to conduct small experiments. Without our own knowledge, we are conducting small experiments in the classroom. We have a specified lesson plan that we think will cater to the student needs in the classroom. But every classroom is unique, and every class expects us to teach in a different mood. So we modify, we change, we experiment, we learn from the students, and then we try to change our teaching methodology. The only thing that we don't do as language teachers is we do not conduct a research or tell everyone that I've done an exploratory research methodology in the classroom, and we do not give it up as a research finding. We go to a class, their class has a lot of spelling errors. So what do? We give them dictation, we make them write many words, plan and rectify their spelling so that they come back or they rectify. We have a remedial measure which alters to their mistake of spelling, and then we are able to help them with their spelling mistakes. This is a small classroom-based research which no teacher, no language teacher, be it from kindergarten to the universities level, boasts of conducting a research. When we think of the word experiment, always go back to the science methodology, and then we say, oh, the faculty of science will conduct a lot of research or experiments. We do not do it. Actually, we are conducting experiments on a daily basis. We modify simultaneously in a fraction of a second according to the needs of the students. So we are the ones who are doing a lot of experiments, and I would highly encourage everyone, every person who is interested in language to have some qualitative research, not go for quantitative. When we say quantitative, more than conducting a survey, it would be better if we encourage or our students or research scholars or the classes that we teach to go for qualitative research, because that would be the basis for another linguistic methodology to be brought about. We cannot talk about Noam Chomsky all the time. We have to come up with our own language acquisition device. So I have mentioned DRDP, which is development pathway or the profile. For every student, when they are small children, it's easier to observe them and then have their own profile. At the university level, it is difficult because we have huge classrooms in India. But when you take all the language classrooms, whether it's German, Japanese, or French classrooms, even the English classrooms, in the countries abroad, we restrict to 15 to 20 students where it is easier for us to maintain this DRDP profile. Like you have this desired results development profile. Like we have a learning outcome. We say at the end of this semester, each student should be able to have a vocabulary of 20,000 words. They should be able to write an essay on their own. They should be able to reference. They should be able to paraphrase. They should be able to speak well. All these cater to DRDP milestones. So how can we cater to this? How can we observe students in the classroom? Sometimes we have our spontaneous or planned. When we have the inspection, we have the officers walking into our classroom, which is a spontaneous observation. Whereas as teachers, as class teachers, support tutors, we always have this planned observation which goes on for a period of time. And when we observe the students carefully, we are able to identify each of their unique features. We build on their strengths and then we are helping them eradicate or minimize their weaknesses. And in our classrooms, we can use tapes, recordings, and we also have this attitude questionnaire that most of our research scholars use. We always have a questionnaire. We have the Likert scale. The students always answer to these survey statements saying yes, agree, partially agree, not decided. But it would be better if the students can actually be observed, given a tape recording or a linguistic test where the students are given small words and asked to repeat, where they're asked to imitate for better performances or better learning of the speaking ability. And as a person who goes more of research, I want to broadly categorize few experimental designs that could be used in the classroom. For example, the true experimental design. So you can have two groups where you have an experimental group and a control group. The experimental group is where you go and conduct a change in your pedagogy. You have some technique that is being used, or you have some kind of a methodology that you adapt, an approach that you adapt. But when it is the control group, you follow the traditional method. So you can always have an experimental design where you have this change in pedagogy. You can analyze that and give the score, or you can have two groups, an experimental group and a control group. You can have a comparison of the study and you can tell them this experimental group performs better. They were able to learn words better. They were able to read better. They were able to write better because of this approach or this technique. And always, I would request all, as it is mentioned in the behavioral pattern according to psychology, any approach or technique that you adapt in the classroom should be followed for 3 weeks. It should be used for at least 21 hours, 1 hour a day, 21 days, or 3 weeks. We can just get the means for the average score and have an analysis, like analysis of the comparison of both the mean scores, which will give you your ANOVA. So the two experimental design comprises of, you have the two groups as I mentioned. You have the experimental group process and the control group process. So this methodology talks only about post-test. Post-test is the assessment that we take at the end of our teaching methodology. So there are two groups. One group has an experiment. The other group is a control group, the traditional method being taught. And then you have a post-test. When you compare the mean scores, it gives you the analysis. But what we would prefer would be you have a pre-test, you have an experimental design, and then you have a post-test. So you have two groups, you conduct a pre-test for both the groups, and then you have the experimental design, and then you have the post-test. So this is one other group test which is not commonly used in any of the classrooms because it alters it requests lot of comparisons, and most of the researchers do not go for the 4-group design simply for the sake because you have to analyze 4 different groups. There are 4 different groups. One group has a pre-test, experiment, and post-test. The second group has a pre-test, but no methodology, no experiment, and a post-test. The third group has only the experiment and the post-test. And the fourth group is a control group, just the post-test. So with all their mean score would be average. We take the average and then we come to an analysis of the learning technology or the methodology that has been used. We check the effectiveness of the methodology. The last one is our quasi-experiment design. Under quasi-experiment design, when we are introducing new vocabulary or a speaking pattern, when we are teaching them a sentence pattern or a speaking pattern, we always involve the students halfway through. The teacher does halfway and the student does halfway. We can also use this for our reading because the teacher does the model reading, the students follow it. This can be used in our researches that pertain to reading, but it also requires, it talks about the intelligence, the aptitude of the students and the maturity level of the students. I have also given the referencing. You can also go back to the referencing and then check. My question to you, why should language teachers conduct qualitative research? For professional improvement? Thank you, Dr. Hamish. Thank you, sir. In a classroom environment, we always conduct a qualitative research to check our effective methodology as well as whether we are on the right track with the students. And when the students have difficulties, it helps us to change to a different pattern. So if we are preparing a module, a program, an approach or a technique, which will be effective for the students in your class, might be applicable to a student in Japan also. So please, always language teachers, go for qualitative research either in the classrooms or when you do your research, because you are going to lay the foundation for the linguistic research in future. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now. Ma'am, I believe that there are no questions. Sridevi, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we are here, ma'am.
How many types of research in a language? Okay. I will try to answer to the best of my knowledge, sir. Thank you. According to me, as far as I have learned, it is quantitative and qualitative research. Qualitative research where you conduct a different variety of experiments in the classroom. Quantitative research mostly comprises of questionnaires or survey patterns where we have the collective information of the group. When it is a collective information, it is just responses based on their understanding. As language teachers, we prefer qualitative research because it caters to better or enhanced performances. I answer to the second question also. Qualitative research being conducted as an experiment methodology, we always can modify for the better. When it is quantitative research, we just get the answers. It is kind of feedback that we receive from the students or the learners. But when it is qualitative research, they learn, they move They progress from one level to the other. They know better vocabulary, they know more vocabulary, they learn how to present themselves in situations, or they know how to write an essay. So they learn more. Learning is more compared to the quantitative research. How do we do literary research? When it comes to literary research, we always go back to, I assume that it is literature research, or if it's going to be review of literature, we go to websites that give us authentic information or genuine information like ResearchGate, Google Scholar, and then PubMed, Science Direct, and we collect information from dissertation, thesis, books, ebooks, all the sources available. When it is literary research, we always have to go back to the genres of literature, whether it's prose, poetry, novel or drama, and then we read the primary sources, which is the novel, the drama, or the prose, short stories or essays, and then we go to the secondary sources, collect information, and then we draft our essay or I think it is time to wind up, ma'am. Sridevi, ma'am. Yes, I have shared my ID. I hope this session was fruitful to you. As educators, we should adopt valuable insights and then we focus on students learning, and then we have a different instructional design, and we should always promote continuous learning among our students. That way, we unlock the path to success for our students. And then always keep in mind, efficient teaching leads to effective assessment. When it is coupled with thoughtful evaluation, it can give enhanced learning outcomes. Overall, the students will have educational excellence. Linguistic. See again, Ms. Sridevi ma'am, thank you for reaching out to me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Seriously, we are actually blessed to hear such wonderful session from you, ma'am. Your session was really mind-boggling, and I think which has many facets of research and what are the assessments that has been involved into it. I hope the participants would have thoroughly understood what are all the things that lies behind it. So I thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot for all the efforts that you have taken. I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Emelda Jospin, ma'am, head of the department at the International Agricultural University in Uzbekistan. Your presence, insights, and expertise have had a tremendous value to our workshop. We are honored to have you with us, ma'am. Before closing the day, I thank each of the participants for their active participation as we draw near the curtains on the fourth day of our workshop. I would like to recollect and remember one thing, that research the compass that guides us through the uncharted territories of the knowledge. So let us all keep exploring, keep learning, and keep innovating. Until we meet again, may our research endeavors be fruitful and our curiosity boundless. Goodbye for now and stay inspired. Thank you so much, everyone.
Mercy, thank you.
Thank you.
Until we meet again. Bye.
Bye-bye, ma'am. See you. Take care. Participants, the feedback link has been posted in the chat. So kindly fill the feedback link within 15 minutes. So after 15 minutes, we will close the feedback link. So I request everybody to fill the feedback link within 15 minutes. Thank you.